The late President of Namibia, Hage Geingob, was laid to rest in the country's Heroes Acre cemetery on Sunday following a state funeral attended by African leaders, the German President and Princess Anne, the sister of Britain's King Charles III. Geingob was interred in a mausoleum at Heroes Acre on the outskirts of the capital, Windhoek, as mothers paid tribute to the man they hailed as a nation builder and a pan-African hero. His death saw a surge of patriotism, with Namibians from across the political divide coming together to mourn. And this is the first time Namibia has buried a president since its independence from South Africa, then under white minority rule in 1990. And to talk about this, I'm being joined live on the news by Esther Mbathere, a journalist at Namibian newspaper. Good morning. Glad to have you join me, Esther.
Yes, good morning.
All right, let's talk about the legacy left behind by the president, the late President Geingob. What do you think he left behind in terms of legacy for Namibia and as well as for Africa, as a continent?
Well, President Geingob was hailed as one of those presidents who had the unwavering dedication to the principles of inclusivity, justice, and equality, as well as unity. His legacy also comes through the constitutional democracy, peace and unity and reconciliation. Because you remember that he was part of the group that drafted Namibia's constitution in 1989, just as you mentioned earlier, that Namibia became independent from South Africa in 1990. Now, also they are saying that his leadership was also marked by a vision that transcended political boundaries, emphasizing the importance of collective efforts to build a better future for all. What is also happening is that from the business community, they saw him as one that strive towards a green hydrogen, inclusive, sustainable development, as well as fostering a culture of innovation. And we saw that also through a lot. Namibia is currently working on the green hydrogen plant. And also Namibia has been a country that has always been the forefront of innovation. When you look at 2022, we also had one of the internet cables being launched through Namibia and so on. What they are also saying is that he was one of those characters that who was very honest. So even if it was offensive to some, and we saw that also earlier this year when he put out his support against Israel for the attack on Gaza, which he amplified thoroughly because of his morals and principles.
Let me talk a bit about the funeral, procession. Was there any notable moment for you that stood out?
The one thing that stood out for us as Namibians was, and it's still on the lips of many Namibians, is first his firstborn son, Mangaliso Fernandez Geingob, who came through. He lives in the United States with his parents, with his mother. And then the other part was having a member of the opposition party being part of the pallbearers. That was Honorable McHenry Benani. He's the president of the official opposition party of Namibia. So, and then what also stood out is the many people that came from all over the world. We had about 25 heads of states that came to pay tribute to the president. And of course, what also stood out among those heads of state is the presence of the German president, that's Franz Steinmeier, who came, and he actually at the memorial service, he said it is about time that Germany actually acknowledged and apologizes for the genocide that was caused in Namibia by the Germans when Namibia was a colony of Germany in 1904 to 1908, where about over 10,000 Namibians were killed. And what also stood out is the Princess Anne of the sister of King Charles, as well as his friends from South Africa, his friends from all over the world. We had Brazilians, we had Sao Tome and Principe presidents, and so on. The other part that also stood out for us was the whole thing about his widow speaking up, because it is very uncommon for Namibians to have a widow speak at the funeral. But I guess it's because President Geingob was also an unconventional person. He didn't really conform to the norms, and with that, we saw it throughout his tenure as a president, because he always avoided to be part of tribal connections. he always indicated that he's just president of Namibia. He's not president of a tribe. The other part was also where we had traditional leaders from his tribe, which is the Damara tribe, that were, and also trying to say that he should at least, or his remains should have at least been taken home to Otjozondjupa region, where he hails from. Because he's now buried in the Commerce region, which is in the capital city, which is about 300 kilometers from where he is from. That is part of the things that stood out.
Esther, let me end by asking you if you think there are any challenges Namibians may face, in this post-Geingob era.
Okay, post-Geingob era, because remember this year is Namibia's election year. We are headed to the polls for the National Assembly as well as presidential elections. So we are currently now, it is the whole void that he has left in the ruling SWAPO party, where he was also president of that party. The party has now about 80 days to choose a new president for the country, for the party. But then also it means that that president will most probably be the candidate for the upcoming presidential elections. But we are now faced with two challenges, because already last year, when the party had its normal Congress, they voted Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, who is the current vice president of the party, as their candidate for the upcoming elections. So we see this as one of the challenges that the country will be facing, because we are already looking at now the other opposition parties to see who are they putting forward as the presidential candidate. So those are the challenges that we're facing. But other than that, Namibia has stood the test of time. So throughout the mourning process, which took about 22 days of President Hage Geingob, the whole country literally came to a standstill and united in this whole process. So we weren't really faced with the issues of, say, war or anything. The transition to a new president was so smooth, and there were a few questions around the constitution.
Well, just about in there, Esther, I'm afraid we are out of time. But thank you so much for your time on the news. And once again, our deepest condolences to Namibians. Thank you so much, Esther Mbathera. Many thanks for your time.